survivors.
Take them to the raw material.
Feel the wrath of truth! I don't allow intruders in my laboratory!
Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to talk about Abyss clans. We will covering the mods, the best armor pieces, calibrations, playstyle and everything else that you need to know. I hope you enjoy this video. Let's start with the gun itself. The keyword of this gun is going to be Frost Vortex. Frost Vortex will trap enemies within a with radius of 4.5 meter, and it will inflict 50% of your PSI intensity as a status damage every 0.5 second up to 4 seconds. So that means 8 times of 50% of your PSI intensity as a status damage. You can only have one Frost Vortex at a time. The additional damage is Frost Element. It cannot crit, cannot hit Weakspot, and it will not decay with distance. Let's go to the weapons feature. Hitting an enemy will trigger Frost Vortex for you 100% of the times. It have a 4-second cooldown. Every time that you hit an enemy with your bullets, it will reduces this cooldown by 0.5 seconds. That means every 2 bullets will reduces this cooldown by 1 second. The damage against other players is 30%. The Frost Vortex damage frequency increased by 100%. This means it will reduces this timing of 0.5 second up to 0.25 second. That means it will be 4 frost damage every second instead of 2. Hitting a non-player will increases your Frost Vortex final damage that you created by 5%. It can be stacking up to 10 times. That means it will increases your Frost Vortex up to 50%. Your Frost Elemental damage is also increased by 30%. For demonstrating the passive, basically every time that you shoot an enemy, it will apply a Frost Vortex on that location, and it will deal frost damage. And it have a cooldown of 7 seconds. Basically every 7 seconds it will, as you can see above my sanity bar, there's a cooldown, and when that disappears you can apply Frost Vortex again, and every time that you continue shooting, the Frost Vortex will apply multiple times. The previous Frost Vortex will disappear and the new one will apply. So every time that you shoot, you will reduce the cooldown. For the frequency of the gun, if I apply Frost Vortex without the Abyss clans, this one will deal 8 frost damage for 4 seconds. And if I do it with Abyss clans, basically it will deal 16 times of frost damage for 4 seconds. So it will increase the frequency by almost double, 100%. And for the final passive, if I apply Frost Vortex here, it will be 106 frost damage. And if I continue shooting, it will increases the Frost Vortex final damage up to 50%. So at the moment, it will start with 106 and end up with 160. Next up is going to be the mod for your weapon. There are basically 2 main options that you have. The Frosty Blessing and Shattering Eyes will not be your options. They will not perform as good as they supposed to be, and you will not have any benefit of using those mods. The other two options, the best one is going to be Cryoblast. Every time that you trigger Frost Vortex, it will increases the Frost Vortex up to 4%. It will stack up to 5 times. That means you will have 20% Frost Vortex at every time that you will triggering the Frost Vortex. And the next option is going to be Cryo Catalyst. The Frost Vortex damage is up by 10% after triggering Frost Construct. That means Ice Spikes, Ice Missiles, and Ice Crystal. The Frost Vortex damage will increases by 5% for 6 seconds. Basically, if you don't use some specific key armors, you will not generate any ice spikes, ice missiles, or ice crystals, so you will not have any benefit of this 5% Frost Vortex. So the best option is going to be Cryoblast. It's much easier to trigger, and you will have 100% of the benefit of this mod. For the substats of this mod, you want to look for talent with elemental, with and status, and damage against X type of enemies that you prefer. If you want for the bosses, you need to go with great ones. If you want for elites, for silos is very good, and normal enemies for most of the silos and open world content. Also, you want to look for Frost Vortex. This one will be much better than talent, since you have Frost Vortex as a fixed attribute, and you can get Frost Elemental damage, or even Frost Vortex duration, that is very nice, and damage against great ones or elites, or even normal enemies, depends on your content of the game. I recommend going Frost Vortex suffix with Frost Vortex damage and Frost damage. Moving on to the calibration of this gun, you have two options. You cannot use precision style at all. It will not have any benefit for you. The attack and the range, it will not be any meaningful stats for you. And it will also reduces your fire rate. That is something that is very bad, and you want to avoid that. So your two main options are going to be rapid shot style for faster fire rate and faster reload in exchange of some attack that you don't use that much, and you want to use double elemental. The substats are going to be double elemental. You can use rapid shot, or you can use the heavy style for maximum of the magazine capacity, but it will reduces your reload speed. With the heavy style, you will have around 90 bullet per magazine. That is very nice. And the rapid style will help you to trigger the Frost Vortex and reduces the cooldown much faster, since you will have 20% fire rate. Moving on to your armor pieces, you want to go mainly with 4-piece Treacherous, 1-piece Lone Wolf, and a key armor of your choice. For most of the content of the game, I recommend a Stealth Walker or Covered Walker shirt, since it will pull the enemies into the Frost Vortex and it will trap them and kind of put crowd control on the enemy. That is very nice, and the damage will be very high, since you will have multiple enemies into the Frost Vortex. The other options for your key armors can be the Frost Tactical Vest. Every time that you generate Frost Vortex, it will also generate Ice Spikes for you that deals 120% of your PSI intensity as frost damage. You can use this one or the Stealth Walker as well. They are two good options. You don't want to use this one, since you don't have any frozen effect. You will not benefit any of this passive, since you don't freeze the enemies, you just apply Frost Vortex. So I recommend this one for most of the silos, since you will deal with multiple enemies, and I recommend this one for single targets or even elite enemies. You can also go and use the Earthly Boots for maximum damage against marked enemies. You can use a bullseye and it will increases your damage up to 30%. For your armor set, as I said, I recommend going with the Treacherous Tide set, 4-piece and 1-piece Lone Wolf, since it will provide you a lot of status and weapon damage at the same time, and a shield and 10% magazine capacity. If you want to play this build at full HP, I recommend going Shelter at 4-piece for 38% elemental damage and 1-piece Lone Wolf for 10% magazine capacity. Next up is going to be your armor mods. We will start with the helmet. For the helmet, I will go with the low HP playstyle, and then I will recommend the full HP. For the low HP, you want to go with Deviation Expert with Lunar suffix or Talent suffix. You want to look for, at the talent, you want to look for the status damage and damage against X type of enemies. And for Lunar as well, you want to look for the elemental and the status together with damage against great ones, elite or normal enemies. For high HP build, for full HP build, you want to look for elemental havoc or deviation expert as well. For your armor piece, for your armor mod, basically you just need to choose any of these mods but with a very good substats. And again, you want to look for talent with a status and elemental, and if you're using Lunar, you want to go with elemental and status together. For your pants, you want to go with elemental resonance for 24% of the elemental damage. You can also use the reload rampage for having more bullets in your magazine and 10% of the status damage that you can get from this mod. But elemental resonance will perform much better since it will give you 24% elemental damage after every reload, and since you will deal very good amount of elemental damage, you will stack this 24% with no time. For your shoes, at low HP, you want to go with Rush Hour, since it will provide you a lot of status, elemental and melee damage at the same time. And you can also use Covered Advanced for your low HP build. And for full HP, you want to either go with Slow and Steady for 10% status, weapon and melee damage, and 10% additional if you are above 90% HP. And you can also use Covered Advanced for full HP build, since it will provide you 20% status damage, melee and weapon damage if you don't get any damage. For your gloves, I recommend going with Elemental Overload, since it will provide much more damage rather than status damage. And again, you want to go with talent, with elemental and status damage. Don't forget this. These two substats are very important, and any of these three substats for your content that you're going to play. And lastly, for your mask, you want to go with Frostwave Wither. It will increases your Frost Vortex final damage up to 30%, and it will decrease every second for 8%. So whenever you apply the Frost Vortex, your Frost Vortex final damage is 30%, and the next second it will reduces by 8%, and then the next second it will also reduces by 8% again. You can also use the Frost Construct, but since you don't generate any ice spikes, ice missiles, or ice crystals, you will not benefit from this one unless you use the Frost Tactical Vest, and still I believe the Frostwave Wither is much better option. For this one, you want to look for talents with, again, a status and an elemental, or you going to look for Frost Vortex suffix with Frost Vortex damage, Frost damage, and damage against X type of enemies. The Frost Vortex suffix will deal more damage if you get the Frost Vortex and the Frost damage together, since this one is elemental and this one is frost vortex, that is another factor for calculating the damage. It's much better to use elemental than status. For the animal skin that you want to use, for helmet, body, pants, gloves, and the shoe, they are mostly optional. They don't provide any kind of bonus damages. They usually give you stamina, move speed, or cold resistant, heat resistant, or something like that. But the most important one is going to be the mask. Whenever you want to craft your mask, you want to go with two options. You want to go with rabbit, normal, dreamy, or lucky one, since the lucky one will give you 10% every time that you crit for 3 seconds. This is the best option for 10% elemental. The dreamy will give you 6% and the normal one will provide you 4%. The other option is going to be golden wool, since it will provide you 12% of weapon and status together combined, and every second this 12% will distribute between these two differently. So 1 second it can be 12% status and 0% weapon, and another second can be 5% weapon and 7% status. So it will change every second. I recommend, if you can find lucky rabbit, go with this one, or go with golden wool as the second option. Moving on to the cradle. For the cradle, you want to go with anti-void. It will increases your assault rifle damage by 15%. It will also help you to deal more damage to super anomaly of void. You want to use rapid aid for your activator's cooldown. You want to use tactical dip if you're in a storefall scenario, or you can use drinks or whims that increases your jumping, so you can be floating in the air for more than 1 second for bonus damage against deviants. Next option is going to be deviant energy defense for a shield. Every time that you summon your deviant, you'll get a shield. It's very useful. You want to use the status enhancement. Every time that you hit a weak spot, it will increases your status damage by 15%. Next up is going to be elemental sense. Every time that you deal a specific element, that elemental damage will increases by 25% for 4 seconds. In this case, it will be frost damage for 25%. Next up is going to be extreme freeze. This is for your keyword, that is going to be frost vortex. Whenever you deal frost elemental damage, your frost vortex damage will get increased by 2.5 seconds, and it will inflict and slow down on the deviant for 8 seconds. This can be stacked up to 10%. And lastly, you want to go with energy surge if you're in a starfall. It will help you to get more deviation energy for your deviants. Next up is going to be the deviants for your build. You have 3 options. The best 2 options are going to be a snow sprite. This deviation will summon an ice crystal for you, and whenever you destroy that ice crystal, it will deals 100% frost damage to all enemies around it, and those enemies will take 48% more frost damage. Your next option is going to be the polar jelly. It will have the similar performance as the snow sprite. You will summon it, it will deals frost status damage, and if you deal damage and generate frost vortex inside of the radius of this deviant, it will generate ice spikes for you that deals 120% of your PSI intensity. And those enemies that take damage from this deviant, they will take 39.2% more frost damage. And your next option can be Mini Feaster for getting up to 80% status damage. I don't recommend it since these two will perform much better than Mini Fister. For the foot buff on this build, I will recommend 3 foot effects that you need to use. The first one is going to be Bone in Deviated Sausage. This one will increases your damage against the bosses or the great ones by 15%. Next up is going to be Mixed Fried Hot Dog. It will increases your damage up to 20% against targets that are affected by Bullseye. And lastly, you want to use Canned Minty Meat. This one will increases your frost damage by 15%. For the meat that you want to use in these 3 foods, you either need to go with deer meat for having 2% more damage against target with Bullseye, or you want to use beef for frost vortex damage by 2%. For your drink, I recommend going Whimsical Drink for increasing your status damage by 25%. And you can also use a Stardust Mushroom Soup for having more stamina and faster stamina recovery. For this part of the video, I'm going to showcase the damage of this gun with different armor pieces. Our build will mostly have no foot buff. First of all, we will not use any foot buffs here. And we will have 1070 psi intensity. We will have 144 status damage, 125% frost elemental damage, 10% frost vortex damage, and 14% damage against normal enemies. The mods will not change on this build, only the armor pieces will change. This one is mostly with Treacherous tight set. And as you can see, a lot of people said that most of these videos that I'm recording and I'm uploading are on the custom servers, or this kind of bullshit that they're giving to me. I have only 3 accounts, 3 characters. One of them is level 1, one of them is level 22, and they're very, very old mostly. Like this one is 56 days into the server and it's level 22. The only one that I'm using at the moment is eDream X0049, and all the videos mostly recorded on this specific character. So if you have any questions about custom server, none of these videos are made on the custom server or anything like that. They are mostly in Dream server, and there's my UID and everything in the video that you can see and you can check for yourself.